Everyone, it's Kathleen here. I'm coming to you guys with my VBAC delivery story. I had my daughter about 6 weeks ago, and if you've seen my previous delivery story, I had an emergency C-section, and with the second child, I actually ended up having a VBAC, even though, you know, with all my previous history of what I went through with the previous pregnancy. So it was on a Saturday. Well, first what I did was, my husband, he works over the road, so I knew that I needed to have the baby at a certain time frame. So I've been seeing an acupuncturist, and what I was doing was, I know that you can be induced by acupuncture. So what I did was 3 days straight in a row. It was my first session was a Wednesday, then I had a session on Thursday, and then my last session was on a Friday. Also with that, I was doing Claire Sage essential oil, and I was having my husband rub my feet with that. I also we had sex, and we kept doing that. And then it was Saturday night, we did the same thing again, and then around 1 in the morning, like 1:30 in the morning, I had my first contraction. And this one, it did not feel like, because for me, since I never went into labor before, I wasn't sure what it was going to be like. So I watched a lot of videos, and everyone was like, oh, it feels like cramps and stuff like that. But me, I don't have like I don't have like painful periods, so I wouldn't know, like, your worst cramp, I wouldn't know what it feels like. So I felt it, and it felt like you got stabbed. Like, it felt like someone was stabbing me on the side, and then someone was stabbing me in my back. Like, that's how bad it was. It was not, oh, it's just a cramp or anything like that. No, these felt like stabbing and crushing bones. Like, I felt like my bones were breaking, or I don't know. It's really hard to describe what this thing feels like, but it's not fun. Okay, so yeah, so I got my first contraction. Then around, I was like, okay, let me not wake up my husband, let me just wait and see if this is actual labor. So it became 3 in the morning, and I was still having these contractions, and they were getting closer. They were getting about, you know, 5 minutes. And then I woke up my husband. I was like, babe, I think I'm in labor. And he's like, are you sure? And I'm like, yeah, I think this is it. I think this is it. So we called my daughter's godparents to pick her up, and then we got to the hospital around like 7-ish in the morning. And then they checked me. The first nurse was like, oh, you're like 1 centimeter. And then the next nurse who checked me, no, yeah, she said I was 1 centimeter. And then we went to the room, and then at that time I was like, no, I don't want an epidural. I'm gonna try to do this natural. Yeah. So then I was like, okay, well, let me get something to relax myself, but it's not an epidural, and I don't remember what it's called, but it's some other drug that they gave me through the IV. And it made me, like, you know, try to make me fall asleep, but I could not fall asleep. So then it became like 2 something in the afternoon, and still no cervix change. So I wasn't dilated at all from the last time they checked me. So by the time the next nurse checked me, she said she couldn't even get a finger. And I was like, well, that's weird. The first nurse said I was 1 centimeter, and then now you're saying I'm not even a finger. So she was like, yeah. So I was like, you know what, let me go home, because I knew if I continued to stay at the hospital, I was definitely going to end up in a C-section that day. So I told my husband, okay, let's just go home. So we went home, and then I asked them, what can I do for the pain? They were like, oh, you can take Tylenol every 4, yeah, take about 800, was it either 800 or 400, I'm not sure, every 4 hours. So I was like, okay. So I went, got the Tylenol, and then I was trying to do that. And that Tylenol didn't do anything, okay? It did not help me, not one bit, okay? And then the only way I could try to cope through these contractions was literally I would walk. Like, I had to walk, but it was like, you know how you walk, like when you're trying to walk really fast? That's what I was doing, thinking that that was the only way I can cope through these contractions, because they were really, really hard. And we were at Target trying to buy this Tylenol, and then that's when yeah, I took a few minutes, like between contractions I had to like stop and like try to breathe, but it was really hard. So by the time we got back home, I decided to get in a jacuzzi because we have a jacuzzi tub at my house, and I decided to relax in there. I made myself like a bubble bath with some Epsom salt, and then I got in the tub and I let the jets, like, you know, do their thing. And the only way I could cope through the contractions while I was in there was letting the jets hit my spine. And it was, oh, it was just great. It was so wonderful doing that because I was just breathing through them. I was relaxed, and it was just really nice. Then after that, I got out of the tub and I started having the contractions again. But this time they were getting like further and further apart, like they weren't getting closer together. And then I told my husband, okay, let's go for a walk. We walked around my community twice, and I only got one contraction during that walk. So at that point I was like, okay, wait a second, like, is this false labor? Because if this is false labor, I'm extremely upset, because it was really painful. So I was just like, this can't be false labor. So when we got back home, it was like 8 or 7, and I told my husband, I said, you know what, let's just go to the hospital. At this point I'm tired. At this point I don't even care anymore if I get a C-section. I'm just like, get this baby out of me. I'm tired of being pregnant. So we went back to the hospital, and then when we got there, the nurse checked me, and I still wasn't, there was no change in my cervix. So she forced her finger in there to put me at a 1 centimeter. And that was so painful. Like, that was so painful. I can't even, like, my whole face was on fire when she was forcing her finger to make me 1 centimeter. And then after that, I got in there like at 9. Literally, when they asked me about the epidural, I was like, yes, please give me the epidural. Yes, I'll take it. So I got the epidural like at 10. And then after that, I went from 10 to like 3. I was already 6 centimeters dilated. Yep. This girl right here. So yeah, it was going pretty fast. Like, I went from 10 to 3 a.m. I was already 6 centimeters. And then like 2-3 hours later, I was already an 8. But every time they would check me when I was at 8, I wasn't changing, and all they had was like the bulging bag, because at this point my water did not break. My water didn't break, and you know, I was 8 centimeters. So then at this point they're like, okay, we're gonna call the doctor to come and break your water, because if your water breaks now, he probably won't make it in time for you to go have the baby. The baby will be out before the doctor gets here. So when my doctor came, he broke my bag, and then as soon as he broke my bag, I was already 10. I was already 10 centimeters. Then because I had a previous C-section, he wanted the baby to come down a little further. He didn't want me to do too much pushing. So I think about an hour, we let the contractions came and stuff like that. And yeah, so the baby could come down more. But between me like waiting to give birth, like I had to call anesthesia like 2 more times after getting the epidural, because it started wearing off and I started feeling the contractions, and ooh, they hurt. They were nothing compared to what I felt, you know, earlier during the day, and it was just so excruciating. And by the time I was having to push my daughter out, I was already, my whole entire legs were numb. Before, I could still move around, you know, nothing was numb, you know, I just couldn't feel the pain, but I could feel pressure. But by the end of it, like, I couldn't feel my legs. That's how many times he had to come back, and then he gave me like a tidge more of anesthesia. But yeah, like then it was time for me to push. I pushed like 3 times, and I guess he didn't see anything. Like, he felt like he didn't want me to keep pushing, so he took the vacuum and he used the vacuum on my daughter. He also gave me a episiotomy as well, and then she was born. And then it was just like it was like, I was so like shocked. Like, it was just, I think for me, I just couldn't get over the fact that I had her vaginally. Like, I couldn't get over the fact that I did not have to get cut open, because that was one of my fears during this entire pregnancy. Like, I was like, I just don't want to have to go through the C-section again. Being that my husband works away from home, it's like, for me to have to deal with that with my other toddler, it would have been very difficult for me. So and I don't have much help here, so it's like, it's not like I have a bunch of family around me who can come and stay with me and help me out. No, not like that at all. So so yeah, and then, you know, after that it was just pure bliss. And then I remember when they put her on my stomach, she was like instantly looking for food, and then she latched like this. Like, she had no issues latching on. It was just so, like, I felt like I was in a dream. Like, I couldn't believe, it's like I needed someone to pinch me to tell me this is real, like this just happened. But yeah, it was just such a beautiful experience. Like, it was just such a beautiful experience, and I was so grateful for my doctor, you know, for allowing me to even, you know, do that, because it was so hard to find a doctor who would be willing to be VBAC friendly, because a lot of doctors here, they're like, no. And if they are VBAC friendly, they don't accept, you know, whatever insurance you may have. And it's just, it was really, really difficult. So when I found him, like, I was so grateful. Like, he would never know how appreciative I am of him. So anyone in the Broward area and Florida, of course, Broward area, Broward County, Memorial Regional, Dr.Faris, Hanna, he is VBAC friendly. Anyone who's looking for a VBAC friendly doctor in that area, he is definitely VBAC friendly. Oh, and another thing is, during the epidural, I had like 2 contractions, and I moved. And you know, normally when you're getting an epidural, they tell you do not move, because you put yourself at risk of getting injured or being paralyzed, like they say. But I moved, and when I moved, I think the needle punctured through my spinal. I had really bad headaches. I had like a stiff neck. Like, I couldn't move my neck. It felt like, you know, if you sleep on the wrong side of the bed and then you can't like turn your neck. I had that issue, and they were like, you know, it'll go away in a couple of days, or we can fix it with a spinal blood patch, an epidural blood patch. And I was like, well, I said, well, what exactly is that? And they're like, well, pretty much we would have to go back to where we penetrated the first time, and we would have to remove blood from your arm and then take that blood and put it into your spine. And I'm like, what? I'm like, you're the reason I'm in this situation in the first place. Now you want to go back into the same area that you punctured and put my own blood in there? I'm like, oh no, I'll take, you know, letting it go away on its own. So my stay at the hospital was like 3 days, 2 nights. So literally I had the baby Monday and I left the hospital Wednesday. I was back at the hospital Friday, okay? Because I could not take the pain that I was dealing with. I couldn't take it anymore, and I was just like, please just take me back to the hospital. So I went back to the hospital. I was there Friday to Sunday, and I did that procedure, and then it was like instant. The headache stopped, the stiff neck stopped. So I was like, oh, thank God. Thank God for that. But honestly, like, it was really annoying. That was the only downside of this whole experience. But other than that, it was really, really good. And you know, yeah, it was really, really good. So yes, that is my VBAC delivery story. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you have any questions, please leave the comments down below. I'll be more than happy to answer those questions for you. I will be doing a postpartum video as well, and please hopefully check that out once it's up. Well, it'll probably be up next week. This week I'll put this video up. But yeah, and if you guys have any questions, any requests, or anything you would want me to talk about, let me know. Other than that, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys soon.